All right, welcome to TMA's Empowerment Clinic, Dating and Disability, Making It Easier. I'm your host, Rachel Bromley. I am TMA's Senior Manager of Patient Education, Support, and Advocacy, and I am very excited about our panelists tonight. We've got Kathy O'Connell. She is one of the country's leading advocates for helping people with disabilities create healthy romantic relationships and sexual identities through her unique methodology of increasing self-esteem. And then we have Marlene Shinazy with us, and she is a TMA community member. I believe she has had IBM for 20 years now, and she's very involved, and I'll let her, when it's time, she can tell you a little bit more about her. But thank you so much for joining us, and I will introduce Kathy. Thank you.
Thank you. I am thrilled to be here. I am going to take a moment to share my slides and get them up here. And while we do that, I want to thank all of you for coming and your interest in doing this. And I'm very happy to be here. Looking forward to the Q&A when we get done. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to give you some tips and strategies on how to make dating easier when you have a disability. And we are going to be sending you out a little workbook that I created, because whenever I give any talk, I like to have people be able to apply what I talk about to their own life. So Rachel will be emailing you all a workbook that is about the 3 essentials to make dating easier. That's the basic for anyone. Dating can be hard. And when you live with any disability, you can encounter judgment, misperceptions, and people in this day and age who are way too quick to swipe left. So it can feel like this, because meanwhile you're longing for love and companionship, but sometimes you may want to give up. Don't give up, because in the next few minutes, we're just to cover 4 things for you to focus on that will make dating easier for you. They are self-esteem, confidence, having a dating plan, and yes, I'll tell you what that means, and follow through. But first, let me tell you about me and my background in this area. I am a licensed mental health and counselor in New York State. And when I got into counseling 25 years ago, and I worked primarily with people with disabilities, what I encountered was most of my clients really wanted to date, have a companion, but they felt their disability was too much of a challenge in the dating process. And at the same time, I myself, who was born with cerebral palsy, was really struggling with my own dating. And this is that screenshot of my dating profile 20 years ago. And I like to say that I had a very long dating career. I began dating at age of 14, but right out of the gate, that wasn't right, and I knew I wanted more for myself. But it was hard for me to find people who would get beyond their judgments of me. However, I did date here and there. I was even engaged for a period, but I spent many years alone. The one thing was, I always had that dream, that desire to meet someone, to have a happy, healthy relationship. So I kept working on myself. And then this happened. I had the most awkward and intense day of my life, because by the time I got to this day, I realized that if I didn't bring up the fact that I have a disability, I would probably never hear from him again. So on this date, we get done with dinner, we order dessert, and I'd say, "So, how are you doing with me having a disability?" Big tears well up, begin rolling down his face, and he whispers, "I'm just so uncomfortable." And I think I'm never going on another date again. That's way too hard. But remember, I said I did some work on myself. So I let that thought go, because I knew it wouldn't serve me. And I took a breath and said, "Well, this is who I am. I have cerebral palsy. This will always be part of my life and who I am." I began to trust myself, my strength, and I took a risk. I said to him, "This is who I am. I would really like to get to know you because I like you, but you need to decide that that's something you want to do." And we talked for a bit, but that night I went home having no idea if I would hear from him again. Well, the next night I get an email, and he says, I'm not sure I can date someone with a disability, but you're so confident in who you are that I at least need to get to know you." And from there, things began evolving, and we began dating. And that from there, the end of every day, I would say, "So, how are you doing with me having a disability?" And he would say, "Oh, I'm not sure." And then the very next breath, say, "So what are you doing next weekend?" And things began to evolve. And I got the sense that we were heading somewhere. And sure enough, we were. A couple years later, we got married. And the one day where I took a risk to bring up my disability right away, and it was so awkward and intense, turned out to be the date with my husband. And that kind of launched not only my personal life, but my career in the area of dating, relationships, and disability. As I told you, I do counseling, I provide some different trainings. I had taught at Syracuse University on this. I created an online course on dating with a disability. I'd speak at conferences, and I had created a curriculum for professionals and helping people with disabilities to date. And I believe that I am not a unicorn, that my success and the insight I gained and what I learned in my own process of dating with a disability can be universally applied to others. So I'm going to give you 3 major tips on what to do to make dating easier. As I go through these, I would encourage you to have this question in mind. Not, oh, that won't work for me, but how will this work for me? How can I apply this to my own life and circumstance? And the workbook we send you will help you with that. So dating essential number 1, dating self-esteem and confidence. You may feel overall confident in your life. I certainly did. However, when it came to putting myself out there in a very vulnerable way and risking rejection, like in dating, I didn't know where my self-esteem and confidence and what. So that's where I needed to build it up. And I and my colleague had done a lot of research with people in the area of dating and relationships. And many people feel that fearing rejection in dating can be a barrier in forming meaningful relationships and can certainly affect self-esteem and confidence. People have said they fear being rejected, not having enough confidence, being concerned about someone accepting them, not feeling attracted enough, or feeling like they're burdening someone else. And what I'm going to tell you is the key to creating dating self-esteem and confidence is to take exactly what you struggle with and build a more positive mindset around it. And I'm going to give you some examples in a minute. But it's scary to think about putting yourself out there because you could very well be rejected because that's the nature of dating. And rejection can hurt and do a number on your self-esteem and confidence. But you need to be able to build a mindset that keeps you intact, even in the face of rejection. And the way you do that is ask yourself one question. Who is the person you want to be when you're out there dating? And now explain that. Oftentimes, when we're out there dating, we put a lot of mental energy and thought into, do they like me? What are they thinking of me? How do they feel about me having a disability? What I want you to do is to think about who you want to be out there dating. What are the qualities that you want to have when you're out there dating? Because it seems no matter who you are, disability or not, there's a good chance that you're struggling with something about you that you're having trouble accepting and having trouble seeing worthy and lovable. So I'm gonna ask you, and we need to reflect on this. You don't need to share, but what is it that you struggle with? What is it maybe about your disability that causes you to feel more vulnerable in dating and relationships? And remember, the key to dating, self-esteem, and confidence is to take that very struggle and build a positive mindset around it. And the example is the one that I gave my husband on our birthday date. Cerebral palsy will be with me for life. There's no changing that. Here's what I had to offer as a potential partner, and you need to decide if you want to be part of it. Basically, what I did was I displayed unapologetic acceptance of self. Okay, dating essential number 2, having a dating plan, because a dream without a plan is just hope. And many people I work with don't think about that. They get caught up in, well, how can I go out there and meet people and begin new conversations and find the right people? And I know it's intimidating, but what I want you to do is to think about how you can take your desires for dating and relationships and turn them into actions. Because many times when we want the results of something we're trying to achieve, we need to keep trying over and over, even when we fail. So some questions that you might want to think about that will go into a dating plan, and the workbook we send you will help you with that. But where will we meet people? Online, in person? Where do you feel most uncomfortable meeting people? And also, where can you go a little beyond your comfort zone to possibly meet new people? So essential number 2 clearly leads into essential number 3, which is to follow through and support to get the results you want from your dating plan. And we all know that dating can be very hard and you can get easily frustrated and want to give up. And the thing I always say is, but if you give up, how are you gonna find anyone that way? So you want to follow through and support, because remember how we began this talk. Dating can be hard and can take a lot from you. So who are 1 to 3 people you trust that can support you and hold that dream for you when you're frustrated or not getting the results you want? Are they people who can remind you of all your positive traits and qualities? And are there people that can help you problem solve when dating gets hard? Because it's hard to put yourself out there, to be vulnerable, and to face some rejection. And I just want to talk for a few minutes about something brand new my company is doing. We have created Dating Made Easier, which is a membership site for all people, but of course we specialize in working with people with disabilities and increase dating self-esteem, growing confidence, and learning relationship skills. And what the membership looks like is every month members can get a new workshop on dating skills or challenges, a brainstorming section, a resource and guide, and a networking meeting to meet with other people in the membership going through the same thing. I wanted to offer you all a special rate because you are here in the workshop. So it's half off in the first couple months or 30% off an annual membership, and I will put the link to that in the Q&A if I can. I don't know if I can do that, Rachel. And if you have any questions, I will also put my email in the Q&A, and the workbook will have all my information.
Yes, I'll make sure to send all that out in an email to everybody who registered, all the information. Thank you.
So now I'd like to move on to chat and discussion and Melody with her insight. And we're gonna go over these 3 questions, and Melody is the share with us her reflections on them. So is there anything you wanted to say before we go into the questions?
Actually, we are going to need to pull the questions down because we can't see Malati's face. So I need to be able to, y'all are going to have a conversation. I need to be able to put you both up there. And while you're, so stop sharing your screen. And then I also have for everyone, I'm just curious. I'm going to launch a poll and hopefully it'll work. The people in the audience, if you could take this poll, it's anonymous. You don't have to, nobody will know what your answer is. But the question is, what point are you at when it comes to dating? Are you currently dating? Are you thinking about dating in the future? Can you not even imagine ever dating? And so you're not sure why you're even watching this video? Yeah, let's take a few minutes.
I like that. Good.
We've got about 60% of people participated. That means I've probably missed a category. I'm not sure what that category is. Maybe you can write it in the Q&A.
Can you read the categories again?
Yeah. What point are you at when it comes to dating? The first choice is currently dating. The second choice is thinking about dating in the future. And the third choice is I can't even imagine ever dating, and I'm not sure why I'm watching this webinar.
Okay. Well, another choice to go, then it's too complicated.
Yeah. That's the one I'm sharing results. That's the one I missed. It's complicated. That's perfect. All right. Let me bring Malati up. There you go. Hi, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. And Kathy, thanks for your presentation. I've been listening to your podcast this last week or so to get comfortable with your what you offer. And it's tremendous. It's actually a tremendous resource for all of us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I enjoy putting it together. Thank you. So, Melody, what do you think are the particular challenges that people with disabilities experience in dating and relationships?
I think that we live in an ableist society here in the US. Ableism is the concept that the norm is the able-bodied person. However, popular culture enculturates us to the view, and that outside the norm are people who have disabilities, without thinking that we're people first, and second, we have disabilities. Mm-hmm. And I think you address that tremendously and often. And that risk for rejection, I have to laugh, because if you're dating, the risk for rejection, whether you have a disability or not, that's part of the drill. So although it amplifies a bit with if you do have a disability that you're living with, and it becomes sometimes more real as the person gets to know you. So the rejection may not be immediate, but it may come a little bit later. And the third one is, and this is dating anywhere. And I can answer mostly with women with disabilities, since I am one. And I think men have slightly different particular challenges, but the risk for exploitation. And who is it? Somebody, I was teaching in class this morning when somebody was talking about the Tinder swindler. in Australia, and then I think there was one in California, and that means there's more. And so it's like just protecting yourself. And I think folks with disabilities, depending on the disability, there's more of a risk in the world for violence perpetrated against us. And so that is a risk for dating as well. And so, keeping yourself safe is the number one goal for us, I think.
And if I could say, you brought excellent points. And with ableism, I actually teach the concept of sexual ableism, which is something we don't talk about, we don't label it, but we know it's out there because it's that the discrimination against people with disabilities in dating and relationships and intimacy, because the disability is seen as something inferior.
Right. Yeah. If the norm is able-bodied people, then we're outliers to that.
Right.
And we're not. We're people first.
Right.
And we have disabilities second.
Right. And on your note of rejection, which is hard, I think, the fear that kept me single for many years. But something I teach is to look at rejection as nothing about you. It's just someone else indicating a preference.
Right. Yeah, I have a phrase, your opinion of me, it's none of my business.
Right.
That's
right.
It's your opinion. I don't have a problem.
Right. And on your note about the safety factor and the risks of abuse, it is a statistic that it's especially with people with intellectual disabilities, they are sexually assaulted 7 times more than someone without disabilities.
That's frightening.
And part of it is because even today, kids in school who have disabilities get pulled out of alpha classes, and they're not given education about their body, sexuality, relationships.
Yeah, I'm curious about whether that's going to change for younger generations, like millennials and Gen Z.
Right. Well, there are just a handful of states now that have mandated that everyone gets that in health education in school. So,
great. It's about time, huh?
Yes. So this is a bigger question for you, but how do you think society can change with all the ableism to see people with disabilities as dating and relationship partners?
That's a huge and deep question. That's not going to probably not going to happen in a generation. Although I have hope for the younger folks who tend to cluster in groups before they split off. And whereas dating, for instance, in my generation, it's like you look for that one person. And when you groups of people date together, then it's like they're a group of friends. and they're more accepting of differences of all kinds, not just disabilities. And I think that that's a start. And when I think about people with disabilities, and my particular disability, inclusion body myositis, we have mobility issues. And so I'm looking at like adaptive trails. I love to walk on trails, although I'm not going to be climbing over roots, which are going to risk me falling down on a date. That's not part of my plan. And so I think that, as is often the case, the people who are underrepresented have to take the lead. And so we need to contact elected officials for funding for trails that are suitable for people with mobility issues, for instance. And the same kind of activism we put into our disability activism, those of us who can and like to become an activist for what's not just for dating, it's for our life, and expanding our lives instead of making our lives shrink because there's not enough adaptation in the world for us. So you know how there's some elevators have those little braille buttons, but there's no indicator where the braille buttons are. So I always wonder when I see the braille buttons on the floors, how's a blind person, a person who can't see or is vision impaired, going to be able to find those buttons in the first place? So there's no arrow in braille saying, go this way. They know where the door is because they can hear it, but where are the buttons? And I'm always curious about that. But those are the kinds of things that we as a society don't really think about a lot. Yet, if you are living with a disability, it's apparent wherever you are.
I wanted to interject because I got a couple of emails about kind of like the specifics. I mean, a lot of the questions were about when do we disclose and how do we disclose? One of the problems, and Kathy, I don't know if we talked about this in the pre-interview, but with myositis, a lot of times people can't tell that you have a disability. You may be having a good day and you don't have as much progressive weakness, or you can walk in the morning, but then in the afternoon you need your wheelchair. So let's talk about all of that. When do you disclose? How do you disclose? Do you put it on your Tinder profile? Is it the third date, fifth date?
I have a different opinion. I have a different opinion than Kathy, who just, part of it is the visibility. Kathy of cerebral palsy is like, that's a visible, immediate visibility. And for myositis anyway, so this is my general opinion about dating. There's only one question that I have to ask on the first date. Is there going to be a second date? It's like, do I want to date you? Which is like switching the script. And do I want to have a second date with you? And if I don't want to have a second date with you, I don't need to tell you anything, because I'm basically vetting you on the first date. And that's a more assertive way of dating than waiting for approval or non-approval. It's like, wait a minute, I'm the one who's deciding that, not the person I'm dating. Then this is part of your third question, Kathy, of advice for dating success. Then, depending on who you are, and if it progresses, if you have an invisible disability like I had for 15 years of my 20-year career with inclusion body myositis, I'll decide after I've assessed you enough to decide when I'm going to ask you or tell you, disclose. Just like I'll decide when we're going to have sex. there's no rule except my rules. And that's a different approach than a lot of people have. But that's my approach, and it works for me. And so Kathy, what's your thinking about this?
Well, my advice, and people may not like it, but you gotta do what's right for you. So, as Molly said, I have a very visible disability, so I did not really have any luxury at because of hiding it. So I would put it right in my profile, right online, because if you could not accept that, I did not want to waste my time with a date with you. But I do understand that it might be different if your disability is not as apparent. And actually, Rachel, I will also send you another resource I have on how to disclose your disability and ways you can talk about it either in the profile or with a date, and questions you can ask to share. Like, for example, one of my students who also had cerebral palsy, she decided to not disclose in her profile, but talk about her advocacy at first. And so her date was very wise and said, oh, she's an advocacy. So he Googled her, found out she had a disability. He was okay with that. And actually, they got married 2 months ago. So there's a lot of creativity to it. You just need to figure out what feels right for you.
All right, you had another question for Malati?
Well, I think you answered it, but you can go further into it about what advice you would give someone dealing with a disability.
So that was my first one is though actually let me back up a little bit, because you brought something up, which is the plan. And it's really spoke to me, because I always tell folks that I teach that you create the plan the work, and then work the plan. That's that follow-up. So, and that works. Otherwise you'll be thinking about it forever and you're not going to do anything.
But
so there's the first date, there's only one thing you need to ask, which is, do I want to go on a second date with this person? And I'd advise, and this is sort of general advice for dating, of which I also have a long career in dating and have had multiple very long-term successful relationships. And yet I think I was thinking about this today, that I spent actually more of my life being single than I have being in a primary relationship, is to go slowly. Because most folks, not me, of course, but most folks have this promotional self that they will put out there about who they are, but it can only last for a few months. And then their real self shows up. So during that promotional self, when you're dating for a little bit, watch for yellow flags because they may turn into red flags when the promotional self can't sustain itself anymore. And the real self shows up. You mentioned, Kathy, pay attention to your gut and that intuition. If you have an odd feeling, trust your odd feeling. And then if you're starting to get serious about somebody, Google them. And if they don't show up on Google, then pay a little bit of money and go to one of those consumer background checks. And I've done that, and it works. You find out all kinds of things about people. You can find out whether they have a criminal history, which is important. You can find out where they've lived, which can actually promote deeper conversations with them. And, you know, it's like that could help draw things out about them. And those consumer background checks are like, I don't know, $30 a month or something like that. And you can have subscription for like 1 month. And then while you're on there, you can background check everybody you know. just for the fun of it. You know, in your pastimes, like, what's Rhonda Rogers? What's her background? Oh, I know where you are born and I know where you live. My dear friend Rhonda, who's on this webinar.
Now, I have a question about that. So then do you tell your date, I got a report on you, and so tell me about living in North Carolina?
Maybe, depends on the person. If I find things out of which I don't want to go any further in dating this person, no.
Okay.
You know, but if depending on the person and what I'm looking for, if I'm really looking for like long time, of course. But if I'm looking for somebody to go to the movies with on occasion and, you know, talk about politics and talking about things that are happening in the world, no, I don't have to tell them, because it's not, the situation isn't really for dating for love. It's dating for finding friends. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I see a Q&A just popped up.
Yeah, that's Rhonda. She says, not fair. She doesn't want to Google herself.
I'm not going to Google you either, but you can Google me.
That did happen to me. There is a site that's free. I didn't know about it. A friend of mine knew about it and was like, oh yeah, this person is just squeaky clean. So that did make me feel better. Someone has their hand up, and we're not taking questions over the air, but if you want to put it in the Q&A, we can find out what your question is and then answer it.
So I think the last thing I would just say is for dating is run this person by your friends and family, because sometimes we can get so love struck that we don't see things that the people that we know and love and trust can see. And then listen to them when they give you their advice, like ditch them, don't ditch them.
Yeah.
Although my youngest son has told me, I don't tell you what I think, Mom, because I know you're going to do whatever you want.
Well, I know that we had a couple of questions about, let's see how this is. Many women in the age group that I would date in my locality are extremely fit. They work out, ski, scuba, hike, etc. I can't do any of those things. Do I make excuses for a while or just be honest as soon as the subject comes up?
Yeah, that actually reminded me of something in the ableism thing. Is there is adaptive skiing. There's adaptive, and it's in California and the Sierra Nevadas. It's really popular for people that are either older and love to be on the snow, or people who have mobility issues. But Kathy, what's your thoughts about that?
So to that person, I would say that I would encourage them to look beyond the fitness of people and try to connect with them at a level that you're comfortable with. And then just because they're fit doesn't mean they might not have other qualities, other interests that you could form a connection with them in. And I am well, I can tell you, you gotta do what's right for you ultimately. However, sometimes being honest and open are the things that appeal to the right person.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just have to say, when I was dating, I remember connecting with this guy online. We communicated a little bit, but then he said to me, well, since you don't ski, that won't work. And I thought, good luck finding your person. If you're gonna leave it up to skiing to determine the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for some people, for instance, skiing is the center of their life all winter long. So that's for that person, that is a big deal. And that's not negating us. But if you really love skiing and for whom winter is your season, then you have already found adaptive skiing, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
And I really loved surfing. And I learned about adaptive surfing, which is actually really fun. You don't have to paddle so much because there's somebody else doing all the hard work and you're along for the ride. It's great.
We got a question come in. Are there any specific dating websites for folks with special needs?
You know, I have to say there are, but there are none that I would recommend. And I will tell you that and keep in mind I've been married many years now, so I've been out on the dating sites, but I'm in touch with people who are out there dating. And it seems like the sites that are set up for people with disabilities, they're hard to use, and they just don't seem as well put together as some of the more bigger dating sites. So yes, so there are none that I would recommend.
All right. Well, we are almost done and at time. Do either of you have some last minute words for the audience?
I think for me, because my role here is to talk about personal experience, I think you really need to know what you're looking for. If you're looking, as I said before, if you're looking for folks for whom, like, your one true love, that's one category of dating. And then there's another category of dating of looking for friends or acquaintances even. And for acquaintances, the bar is lower than for friends. And it can be a lot of fun actually getting to know a whole lot of different sorts of folks and hanging out with different kinds of folks that are not in your demographic, whatever it is, not as well educated as you, not as fit as you, or not as disabled as you, whatever, but you can still enjoy each other's company. And I don't even look at that as companionship. I just look at that as keeping our world open.
Mm-hmm. Someone wrote in and wanted to express for people to remember that this is who you are now. You will always be worth loving and being loved. You're a rare commodity, and just flaunt that because it's true. And respect and love is a two-way street.
That
Thank you for saying.
a great thought. Rachel, I gotta just share my slides really quick because I have a final slide that I always like to share with people. And it's even when you think you don't have this, you do. You have the tools and the strength and the personality to have the partner that you want to have. And I want to echo what Melody said and really empower you to think about, who do you want to be with? What type of person? I actually have people that when I work with them, I have them go through the exercise where they envision all the qualities they want in the partner, because we happen to think about what we want in our life, in our love, in our relationship. So just empowering you to think about that and remember that you do have everything within you for a great relationship.
That is a wonderful note to end on, but the problem is we had some more questions come in, and you guys both said that you, I don't know why they waited until the very last minute, but they're really good, and you guys already told me that you don't have a hard stop. So this person's asking about intimacy. Should it be any different for a person disabled, or can it be more complicated?
I think it all depends.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are some people that, due to the nature of their physical disability, it's a little more complicated and still viewable. But I would encourage the focus on intimacy rather than the acted sex, because you can experience some rich intimacy without needing to add sex.
Yeah, intimacy is there's a lot of depth to it. It's intellectual intimacy, emotional intimacy, physical intimacy, and then even the range of sex is a broad range of actions, if you will. And if you have the other two and really respect each other and care for each other, you'll work it out.
And I will say that the acted sex is issue. There are a lot of resources out there now that that provide assistance the devices and everything to help with the app that's
So someone's listening in that said, is there any way to find someone with IBM and on a feeding tube about age 2? My question is, are you looking for someone with IBM on a feeding tube? Because I can hook you up. But no, you're probably the person with the feeding tube and you're age 72 and you feel like there's no way. But I'll let them answer. But I know that just today I had someone write in that couldn't attend the webinar, but that was 66 and had IBM. I don't know if he was at the feeding tube stage, but I mean, people of all ages are looking. There is no cutoff age for, dating and intimacy. So what thoughts do you have, Kathy?
Rachel, can you say how the question was put again?
Any way to find someone with IBM and on a feeding tube about age 72?
Okay. So I would encourage you to redo how you approach that and say, I'm 72, I have a feeding tube, I'm here, I'm here to attract the right person to me, rather than thinking that's even possible. Because most of what happens, most of your potential is determined by your thoughts about it.
I'd advise that person to join TMA's solo people kit group, support group, because, and the reason I'm saying that is because the last time we had a meeting, there were multiple people who were interested in this very topic. And so, the one thing that we all have in common is we have IBM. And so there's immediate understanding of the challenges of IBM. And who knows, there may be a partner for you in that group. So Rhonda, we're going to be matchmakers.
Oh, well, thank you so much. The other comments were just thanking both of you for the opportunity to join in and the information. They appreciate your help, time, efforts, and insights. And Rhonda says, oh no, she's not doing that. Someone else says this was a great webinar. Thank you, ladies, for shining a light on this topic, and have a great night. Thank you to everyone who is out in the office. I'm in the office. I'm in Columbia, Maryland right now. I meant in the audience. Please join us for our next webinar. It will be Ask the Doc with Dr. Namita Goyal, a neurologist, on February 22nd at 6 p.m. Eastern. I hope to see you then. For TMA, I'm Rachel Bromley. Good night.